We're going to be joined tonight by Heather Alfaro, who is the Talent Development Manager at Stride Inc. Um, she had to put up with me for 18 months while I was an instructional designer there. She's wonderful. Um, and she's here to answer questions you may have and also share a little bit about her experience as an L&D manager and how she supports people on her team. So, Heather, I'll let you have the floor.
All right.
Take it away.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm really excited to get to talk to all of you all. Like Jared said, my name is Heather Alfaro. I'm the production manager for talent development at Stride. My team is responsible for building all of the professional development courses for the teachers and admin at Stride Powered Schools. We also make those courses, those fun annual courses that people have to take every year, like data privacy and the harassment courses and things like that. We build those as well. My roots are not in corporate America. They are in the classroom. I started out in public schools. I taught kindergarten and fifth grade, and then accepted a job at a K through 8 private school teaching technology. And so that's what kind of started my love affair with ed tech. After that, I managed my own private school for a few years. We had a curriculum built around social outreach and service learning. And so that was a really fun experience. And then I moved over into online teaching. I spent about 3 years with VIP Kids, started as an ESL instructor, and then got promoted to curriculum developer and what they called mock class mentor, which meant that I conducted the interviews and held practice classes for the teachers who were onboarding. Then COVID happened, and the world of online teaching sort of got oversaturated, and that's when I started to apply for ID positions. So I joined Stride in 2020 as an ID, as a contractor, and then moved to a full-time position as a platforms specialist. So those LMSs that house all of the fun courses, I was the one who made sure that all the courses worked in there and that they were awarding credit to people who had completed the courses and all of that back end kind of stuff. So about 2 years ago, I moved into this role that I'm in right now. And so that's sort of the long and short of how I came to this position right here. But I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have about transitioning out of the classroom or anything else that you just might be wondering about tonight. Don't be shy.
I guess I'll ask a question. I'm a transitioning teacher as well, looking to transition to ID and um, just wondering, like, how much I mean, obviously, from my resume, it'll be known that I've been a classroom teacher. But how much should I reference that, in an interview or when I'm, trying to make, comparisons to skills or things I've done, how much should I mention that, versus mentioning what I've done like in a boot camp or, other upskilling, type things.
That's a that's a tough kind of balance to strike, isn't it? Um, you know, the unique challenge that we as teachers tend to face is, unfortunately, the world tends to kind of view us as interchangeable. They think that, we all have similar certifications, and some of us either have masters or are pursuing masters, and, we have similar knowledge on learning theories and best practice. And so a lot of times when you're looking to transition out of the classroom and into a different role, um, it can feel sort of disheartening for the reasons that you're talking about. You feel like you've formed this identity in the classroom and you know how to operate in there, and then all of a sudden you're not quite sure what skills, if any, can transition into another role. And it really leads to like a dark night of the soul kind of situation. And it really hit me like that too, because I had spent years, since college thinking, I am a teacher. I am a teacher. This is what I do. I teach. And then moving away from that and almost having to form an entirely new identity was an interesting experience. But I cannot emphasize this enough. You are more than what you think you are. The skills that you picked up in the classroom are more transferable to other fields than you think that they are as well. Um, you know, a lot of the things, obviously, between teacher candidates who apply for ID positions are going to be the same. We all have classroom experience. We've all dealt with, potentially difficult parent situations, difficult admin situations, and whatnot. So that is not to say that we should discount those skills or not mention them in our application or in our resume, but we have to sort of do the hiring managers a favor and repackage those in a way that they can easily make the jump from A to B and say, okay, I see she did this in the classroom, but this is really going to help her when she goes to do this particular task as an ID. So, if you kind of think beyond the classroom walls, but remember your roots at the same time, that's sort of my overarching recommendation here. The things to emphasize as far as being in the classroom, it's, I think it's going to differ depending on what grade you teach, because I'm thinking of myself as what I would have emphasized in my role as a kindergarten teacher versus in my role teaching my eighth graders in their robotics class at the private school. So I think it's going to really depend on the grade that you taught. But some of the universal skills that you can emphasize are any kind of committees that you belong to, or extracurriculars, or any of those extra roles that you took on. Because what that's going to show is that you can work with a wide variety of people. A big part of ID work is meeting with someone who has their own sort of vision on how this finished course should look, and then, repackaging their thoughts and representing them to them as, okay, we can do that, and that's a great idea, but how about doing it in this way? So, as a hiring manager, I look for those instances that, this teacher has, yes, worked with parents, they've worked with admin, but oh, look, they also coached this team on the side, which means they've worked with, this facet of people. And, oh, they, were an admin for this social media group. I can tell that, they're used to managing those kinds of conversations, which is a completely different challenge than in the classroom. So any little, I don't want to call them like micro credentials, but sort of like that, those little micro roles that you take on in addition to your classroom role are really good to emphasize in either a resume, a portfolio, or an interview.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
I'll go.
All
Uh,
right.
what in a hiring manager's role, what do you believe or what do you look for when it comes to teachers that are transitioning? Are you looking for things that are on the resume? You mentioned quite a few there. Are you looking more at the portfolio? What do you think hiring managers outside the world of education are their antennas up, and what are they looking for?
Well, I will preface this answer by saying that I can only speak for myself and my experience. Other hiring managers, other workplaces may have a different answer than I would to this question, but I'll sort of speak to my opinions on that. And I was talking to Jared about this before our meeting began. In the last ID role that was posted for my team, we had 1,500 applicants for that. So yeah. So it's kind of a crazy job market right now. And so a lot of pre-decisions have to be made as far as, screening the applications, screening the resumes and whatnot. So I personally, what I look for may not be what one would assume that a hiring manager is looking for. A big thing that comes up quite a bit is, do I need to either have or start pursuing an ID master's degree? Not to me, not to me. You do not have to. I think that, a good solid chunk of any job, honestly, can be learned on the job. And if you're coming from the classroom, you already know how to design good lessons. You know how to hook them. You know how to go from start to finish. You know how to hit the objectives. And so if you felt like an ID master's would serve you well, then absolutely pursue it. But if you think that maybe something else would serve you a little bit better, I would go with that. And for me personally, that would not be a deterrent for me when I'm looking at candidates. If I am comparing two of them, and one happens to have a master's in instructional design, the other has a master's in some other field, they're still equal footing to me. Because again, if you're coming from the classroom, you already know a good, healthy chunk of how to make a good lesson. Another thing that has been really interesting to see over the last few years in particular is sort of the emergence of the online portfolio for education professionals. My husband is an artist, and so, he has a portfolio online, and, up until embarrassingly quite recently, that's sort of the field I considered, those people need a portfolio, but we teachers, we don't need a portfolio. What are we going to put on there? We're going to put our lesson plans on there. Yes, we actually are going to put that on there. We have sort of the freedom and the flexibility to make really cool online portfolios. You can put lessons that you've created that you're proud of. You can talk about any kind of presentations or, conferences or speeches that you have given that pertain to education or ID or, the like, something like that. You can really lean into the data portion of that. Corporations are very data driven in their decisions. And so, in your portfolio, if you include things like, I designed this course right here. I had 613 users take it. Here was the end survey that I gave at the end. They gave us, a 4.75 out of 5 satisfaction rating. All of those things are going to stand out to someone who is in a corporate role, because it's going to show them that you already understand how to utilize data to make those decisions. So, really lean into making a portfolio and making it your own. Put on there anything that you feel like distinguished you in the classroom. Any kind of annual projects that the students really looked forward to. I had a teacher one time who, his claim to fame was the living wax museum at the end of every year. And so we would dress up as historical figures, and it was a huge community thing, and it was awesome. And so, if he were applying for an ID role today, I would encourage him to make that part of his online portfolio, because that's huge and that's a cool project that, would show a hiring manager that you can manage multiple facets of a big project all at once. It's not just about teaching, it's about that management aspect of it. The other thing I want to sort of lean into, and unfortunately, it's not as emphasized as I would like to see, is the concept of accessibility. A lot of times that is not present, or, a demonstrated understanding of the needs of different kinds of learners is not exactly present in a lot of applications or resumes or portfolios. That is something that's very important to me as a manager, because I need to know that you feel the importance of reaching learners of all ability levels as well. There are a lot of certifications out there that are available to get a little more well-versed on accessibility. That is something that, if you were in an interview, I would really speak to that and emphasize your passion for making sure that your lessons can reach all learners. In the past couple of years, it's been sort of an uptick of that, which is encouraging to see, but not as much as we would like to see. I think. So I would really encourage emphasizing that in whatever application materials you submitted as well.
Okay. Thanks for your input. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I've seen some questions come through on the chat. I'm one of those people who cannot talk and read at the same time. So if you put a question on there and I don't get to it, please holler at me and I will be happy to answer it. Let's see what we got here. We've got, what would you say are the top 3 things we have to have or have to do to make the switch? Oh man. Top 3. Anna, how long have you been teaching?
I just finished up my 10th year.
Oh, wonderful. What grade do you teach?
I did fourth grade for a couple of years and the rest was first.
Oh, wonderful. Which one was your bread and butter? First grade or fourth grade?
First grade.
First grade. You liked
Yeah.
that better?
I did.
What'd you like best about teaching first grade?
Uh, because it wasn't a star test grade level, my principal let me think outside the box instead of have to stay in her box. And so I got to use a lot more of my creativity. And there was a lot more flexibility in how I wanted to do my lesson plans and use technology and stuff.
And what is luring you away from the classroom and into ID work?
My family. Wanted to make that a priority in my life a little bit more than what I could as a teacher.
Yeah, I totally understand. I don't know if I have 3 things for you. I have one, and that's keeping the main thing the main thing. And you've already done that. You've identified your reason why you want to switch out. You are doing all of the right things in that you are attending groups like this. You're educating yourself on what it takes to jump into the field, things like that. You know, we could name a host of other sort of sub reasons. You know, you've got the courage to do it. You've got the creativity to do it. You're talking about how much you enjoy being creative with it, but keeping the main thing, and saying, you know, this is the reason right here why I want to switch out of the classroom. I want to be able to, you know, work as an ID, have a more flexible job, be there more for my family, you know, things like that. You've got that. And so that is the top thing, honestly, that I would say, and you've got it. I know that's kind of a gimme answer, but it's the truth. I mean, it's the truth. It is.
Well, the next question is mine too, so I'll just ask you out loud. Do you have any thoughts on certificates versus formal education? Because I see people on LinkedIn, I've got a certificate, and it's like one every week that they're getting. But I don't know that that actually means anything to a hiring manager. So I'm curious.
I have some opinions on it. I don't know if all hiring managers across the board would feel this way, but I definitely feel this way. The world is changing so rapidly that I put a little bit more stock in those micro credentials and those certifications than I do in a 4-year degree. How much changes in any field, education or otherwise, in 4 years? You know, hopefully the curriculum is set up in a way that, you know, the professors are acknowledging and preparing you for these changes, but chances are they're probably just sort of giving you the general lay of the land and preparing you for, you know, honing those skills later on. That's the nice thing about certifications, is that you can pinpoint exact skills that you want to, you know, sharpen, and you can pursue them and you can get them in a relatively quick manner. I really like certifications. I do. I think it personalizes the applicant and their resume a little bit more, because I'm able to tell quickly what skills they either are most interested in or the ones that they felt like were most important to grasp before transitioning into the ID field. So I'm kind of a fan of the micros, yeah. All right, looking at
Thank
the
you.
next question. No problem. Do you feel it's required to have a formal certificate from one of the boot camps? It doesn't hurt, but I wouldn't consider it a requirement. The lovely thing about education is there's lots of different roads that lead to Rome. And so, you can acquire those skills at a boot camp. There's also other ways to acquire those skills as well. So yes, it's definitely a cool thing to have, you know. Is it the only way to sort of garner those skills? No, it's not. So really, whatever format, whatever learning format, whatever, avenue you want to seek as far as skill obtaining, that makes me happy as a hiring manager. Whichever one is best for you. And learning is for all. All right, what else?
So you mentioned you had 1,500 applicants for
Oh,
that
yeah.
position. What would take, like when you're looking through the resumes, what would kind of put somebody in the consider this person pile versus just a quick, this is not going to work? No.
The big deciding factor for this past role that we had on our team, we use a course authoring software that is not exactly mainstream anymore. And the requirements of this role, the person who entered the role would have to hit the ground running and start working in this course authoring system to sort of play catch up on a lot of course updates that we had sort of in the queue. So speaking to that particular role, that was a big deciding factor in how we narrowed down our candidates. Was there anybody in that applicant pool that already had experience with this course authoring software? And luckily there was, and so we were able to fill it quickly. I want to speak to that a little deeper in that, any job that's posted may have very particular needs, such as I described. We've had a lot of courses that needed a lot of things changed because we have a pretty big initiative happening at the end of this year and all the courses needed to be finished by that time. So that really shaped sort of the way that I went through the candidates and settled on the short list of ones to interview. Like I said before, it can be disheartening to apply for these positions and either not hear anything back or start getting those form rejection letters. And I don't think I can stress enough that it is not you, it is them. It is them. I promise you that, because you can, let's just pretend for a second. Okay, hiring managers. Hiring managers are bread, okay? All bread is bread, but there's different kinds of bread, right? We've got French bread, we've got, plain old sandwich bread, we've got yeast rolls and all of that. All right. If I'm a bagel, I'm looking for cream cheese. That's going to fulfill this particular need at this particular time. You could be the best strawberry jelly in the world, but in this role at this time, if I need cream cheese, I have to look for cream cheese. That doesn't mean that you are not the best strawberry jelly. You probably won awards of strawberry jelly, but with these needs, I have to go for what we need at the time that we need it. And like I said, we had to choose somebody to hit the ground running. And so that shaped this hiring process. So as you go through and you try to transition out of the classroom into this new role, please, 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 please don't feel like you don't have the talent to do it, because I promise you that you do. Every candidate that I interviewed for this specific position that I'm referring to, any of them would have made an amazing ID. You have the skill set. You have it already. You have all of the experience that you need. Sometimes the job just needs something at the particular time that, dictates their decision making. All right, looks like we got another question in the chat. Let's see. Boot camp is a self-accrediting group, isn't an accrediting body for ID. Anyone can make a certification. Yep. So if you're making the investment, find one that aligns for you. Yes, Tabitha, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of fly-by-night boot camps out there right now, aren't there? Yeah. And depending on the workplace too, I know, where I work right now, they have sort of pinpointed specific certification bodies that they prefer that we go through. And so a lot of times if you sort of, choose one on your own, that it might be great, but it might not be the one that your future workplace sort of aligns itself with. So yeah, that's very important. Thank you for mentioning that, Tabitha. You're exactly right.
A little bit further up, Amy asked, what was your most challenging experience as a new ID in one of your first early roles? I know that was a different market, a different time, but can you share a little bit about your experience there?
I can. The experience that comes to mind is one that I've seen my current team sort of wrestle with recently, and that's a lot of times the subject matter experts that come to you and ask you to build a particular course have very concrete ideas on how they want this course to look. Those ideas may or may not align with instructional design best practices. They might have a vision for this course that has big walls of text and lots of reading, lots of text, all that, and that's what they want to see. So as an ID, what I found most challenging at first as a new baby ID was having the finesse and the diplomacy to say, I hear your idea. I think it's awesome. You want to tell all of this information to your learner. Let's consider doing it this way because XYZ. You don't think about instructional design being a confrontational field, and ideally it's not. We don't want any confrontation in those intake meetings, but it is a field where tact has to be exercised on a near daily basis. People get very attached to the ideas and the visions that they have. And so it's our job as the ID to validate their ideas and make sure that we understand that their mind, their heart is in the right place, but then sort of steer them in the direction that would lead to a course following best practices and adult learning theory, or if you're designing for children, K-12 learning theory, things like that. Great question. Wonderful question. What else? What else?
Hi, I have
Hi.
two questions, if that's okay. Hi.
All right, go for it.
So the first one, I just kind of wanted to go back to the position that you were speaking of, the new position with 1,500 applicants and how to
Yes.
stand out and things like that. But I was wondering when you're talking about how, like you're the bagel, you're looking for cream cheese, like that is what you're looking for. I was wondering if the job description was written in a manner that really specified what your company was looking for at that time, what the bagel was looking for, the cream cheese and not the strawberry jelly. I don't know, because I try to be pretty cognizant about reading job descriptions because there's so, like, an ID is not an ID over here, that's not the same ID over here, like it's a very broad field. So I'm trying to read more job descriptions to see what I best align with. So I was just wondering if that was more within the job description that was presented out there.
It was. Thank goodness for that. Yeah. It was so important that the candidate moving into this role had a prior understanding of this course authoring tool, that was a big part of the job description that I listed on there. A lot of times, especially with how easy LinkedIn makes it to apply for positions and whatnot, you get a lot of applicants who don't read the job description maybe as carefully as you do. And so sometimes they will miss the mention of the big stuff, the need for cream cheese and whatnot. That's to say, I don't know if all hiring managers make mention of that, but in this particular circumstance, yeah, I had to make sure to mention that course authoring tool to make sure we had the right people at the table. Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
And then just to follow up too, I was wondering about the role, like how ID works at Stride. So when just in hearing about this position, you said you're looking for somebody who would hit the ground running with that authoring tool. You had courses that needed to be completed. That was where you really needed this person. It sounds like I'm just wondering because I'm trying to expand my understanding of what ID looks like in a corporate setting, and I know it looks different in different places. But is the ID roles at Stride more focused on authoring, like you kind of already get the content and then you're just creating the courses, or is there that analysis piece that IDs are working with as well in the company
Man,
with
that's a great
fees and
question.
stuff?
Yes. Oh, that's a fantastic question. Okay. There are a lot of different types of IDs at the place where I currently work. Some deal with building those lesson for K-12 students. Others work on the adult learners, like, the ones on my side. What we do in our team is that we consider the ID the resident expert in how to present the learning to best fit adult learners. Okay, they're the expert in that. However, it needs to be presented in the lesson, best practices for that. How do we make sure that the course is accessible to all learners and whatnot? We put the onus of gathering the information for the course on our subject matter experts, whoever is requesting the course build from us. So on my team, at least, what happens is that subject matter expert will submit a request for a course build. They'll give a very short elevator pitch on, the kinds of things that we'll cover, what they're envisioning for the course, and then an ID on my team will set up an intake meeting with them. At that time, they'll get a little more nitty-gritty on the things they want in the course. Do you want videos? Do you want quizzes? Do you want to do your own voiceovers, or do you want us to produce those? When do you want this by? Things like that. They set tentative delivery dates at that time, and then the ID gets to work. Best practice is to check in with that subject matter expert at least on a weekly basis so that you don't get done with an entire course build and have them come back and say, really what I was thinking what would look like. It's a dialogue for however long the course build takes. I hope that other ID positions in other places are like that too, because it really empowers the ID to be the one to get to decide the direction of the course, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right, we have another comment. So interesting. Past few interviews, first or second, a repeated question was, how do you build relationships and deal with SMEs? Yes, exactly. Very good. Yeah, that's important. That is important because it takes finesse. That is true, Amy. It does. Although I would say that it's very similar to the finesse that it takes to give those parent-teacher conferences in the classroom. I'd say that if you are comfortable with leading those, then you would have absolutely no problem leading a conversation with a SME. In fact, I'd say it's a little bit better than having those parent-teacher conferences. I would think so anyway. What else?
And I do think it's worth pointing out that that's going to be different for every SME that you deal with because everyone is unique. Some are going to want to have different involvement. I've worked with the SMEs at Stride and they're all laid back. Well, not laid back. Some of them are not laid back, but they're all kind people and they're not going to like bite you. So building relationships with them isn't as difficult as it might be in other places. I haven't had a bad SME yet in either of my jobs, but they do exist. So just use that same tact from the parent-teacher conferences.
That's right. That is right. What other burning questions might we have for tonight?
So there might be a few people who are more interested in the kind of job that you have than ID here as an L&D manager. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis as a talent development manager?
Yes, I can do that. What I consider the most important aspect of my job, and this is sort of a great segue from the conversation that we just had, the most important aspect of my job is to be the champion for my IDs. like Jared mentioned, we have wonderful experiences with SMEs, on a day-to-day basis. But if ever called to the carpet, I need to be available to go to bat for my ID. I trust my IDs as the experts that they are. I have empowered them to make the decisions necessary to make a good course. Um, Most of the time, 99.99999% of the time, it goes off without a hitch. But if there was ever a situation where a SME was just like, no, I really want these 37 pages of text on here. This is how I want my course to look. Then that would be my time to step in and advocate for my IDs. That's what I consider the most important aspect of my job. Another thing that I do quite a bit is, and it depends on, the workplace. Our fiscal year at Stride runs from July 1st to June 30th. And so we have just started a new fiscal year. We are in the process of sort of building out our roadmaps and our vision for the next fiscal year. What kinds of course builds are on our plate already? Which ones are we anticipating might come our way? That helps us quite a bit with making sure that my IDs are not overwhelmed with multiple course builds at the same time. That's another very important aspect of my job. They don't need to have to juggle 5 course builds all at once. That is not fair to them. No one works best juggling 5 different course builds all at once. So my job is to make sure to communicate with any SMEs if they are requesting courses with due dates that might overlap with some course builds. We work together to sort of adjust those out so that my IDs have some breathing room. So we're working on building out our roadmaps. Another fun part of my job is listening to what my IDs want, and ideally, in a great situation, going and seeking that out for them. When I entered this role, one of the first things that I did was meet with my new team, and I said, "Do you have a wish list? What do you not like right now that you would like to see improved?" And one thing that they mentioned was, the workflow management platform that we're using at the particular moment, it doesn't really work the way that we want. We need a little bit more control over it. We would like it to have, ABC, different characteristics. Can we look into doing that? I was like, sure, yeah, that sounds great. And so we went out and we found a platform that was more suited to their needs, and they were thrilled. It's working great. We still use it today. It's actually expanding, and we have proselytized it so much that other teams are now using it, and we have a big account, which is really exciting. But that was really a special moment, I guess, as an L&D manager, is being able to give my team something that they expressed that they really wanted and needed. So yeah, the advocacy portion of my job is not only the most important, I feel like, but also my favorite part of it. Are you willing to share what the platform is, Heather? Yes, I can, Amy. I would love to. We use Monday.com as our workflow management platform. We are in love with it, absolutely in love with it. We are so in love with it, as a matter of fact, that all of the other teams fell in love with it too. And so we sort of, expanded our reach of all of the Monday.com stuff. It's just a really nice, user-friendly workflow platform. Lots of different views as far as how you can arrange the information on screen. That was another thing that was mentioned. When I was taking that wish list, they were like, I have a hard time following just a dry spreadsheet. I need this information presented in another way. And that's a thing that Monday does very well, actually. You can look at it as a spreadsheet, but in your own settings, you can also change it to cards or a Kanban board or any kind of, they have so many. And so you can look at your own workflow and, arrange it the way that you want it to look, which is, oh God, it's fantastic. And I could sit here and talk about Monday.com all day long. Jared, she also loves Teams. Yeah, I sure do. Yes, Teams. No. I love Zoom. I love Zoom so much. Uh, it was a heartbreaking day when we transitioned away from Zoom and started using Teams, but we have Teams and I have reached a truce of some kind, but my heart will always belong to Zoom. It's not surprised their ads are well done. Yes, they are. And I'll tell you what else, Amy, their customer service is so good. If we have a question about anything, they are right there and they answer within the hour. I mean, it's amazing. I love, love that we switched to Monday.com. I don't work for them, I swear. I promise.
A little bit higher up, somebody asked, do you sometimes bring candidates back that had been previously rejected? So with that role, I know that it was posted, it got taken down, and then it got reposted. So like, were there people that you had told no and you considered again when it reopened, or how did that work?
You know, that's a really good question. And that's information that I am not privy to. At Stride, we have recruiters manage sort of the candidate collection process. And so, in this instance where we posted a role, but then it, was taken down temporarily and then reposted, I don't know whether or not those same candidates went over into the new posting or not. That's something that the recruiters manage for us. So I apologize. I'm not really sure.
I applied to the first time that you posted the role, I applied to it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I applied 2 times. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
I got the rejection, so and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to tell you what I did. So when I was going to apply again, obviously my email was on the first application, so the system told me like, no, you already applied for this position. So
Really?
I have more than one email. I applied with another email, but I never received any response. So,
Hey, I think that's just thinking out of the box. I love that.
I don't know if
That's
it's okay to
genius.
apply for the same position for like more than one time, like when you first got rejected and you saw that it was posted again. So I tried.
Well, you've answered a good question for me because I didn't know what would
Yeah.
happen if something was posted again and someone applied again. But I think that's a genius.
Yeah, the system recognized my email as a previous applicant. So
Interesting. Okay, that's good to know. That is good to know. I
Typically,
applaud
if it's
that
the
though.
same
That's thinking out of the box. I like that.
Yeah, if it's usually the same requisition number, it won't let you reapply like Maria if it's the same requisition number. But if they pull it down and put it as a new rec, then it would let you apply again.
It would let you. I see. I see. Gotcha. And I'm going to piggyback off of that question for a second too, and talk about a little bit more of the hiring process in depth. Um, doing the hiring and the narrowing and selection of candidates, I enjoy doing it, but at the same time, it hurts at the same time because the job market is so tight right now, and it's hard to see 1,500 applicants for one job and know that 14.99 of them are going to get a rejection for that. I just want to stress and reiterate again that it is not you. It is completely them. Please don't look at those and think, oh gosh, I'm not suited for ID work after all. Yes, you are. I promise you that. Yes, you absolutely are. I think that any teacher, almost any teacher, could leave the classroom and become a very strong ID in a very short amount of time.
thank you for that because it's been discouraging. I've had so far 5 interviews, no offers yet. This Friday I have another interview. But it's been discouraging. I've cried a river. So thank you for that.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's tough right now. And another tough aspect of it is that, a lot of times in certain businesses, and this is held true for several different companies I've worked for, there's a very established pecking order to the hiring process. And so a lot of times, I am empowered to conduct the interviews, and that's sort of where my role ends. A lot of times people will reach out and ask for feedback and whatnot, but there is another subset of the company that handles requests like that. And so it's very, I don't know, it feels bad to me because I'm not the one who's able to reach out afterwards and give that news, which is, I don't know. I wish it was done differently, to be honest with you, but it seems to be a widespread practice. That there's a very established pecking order, and you do this and we do this, and never do the two shall meet. But yeah, it's a tough market right now. I hate to see it. I hate it. What is a normal amount of applicants for an ID job? Good question. Since I've been in this role, this is the first ID job that I have done the hiring for. We've hired several contractors on my team. And let me think. For the last contractor position that we hired for, we had 518 applicants for that one. And that was for a contractor position. So it's well within the triple digits for most. Sometimes it gets up in those 4-digit ranges. Lots of applicants right now. And I don't say that to discourage. Please don't be discouraged by that. I think it helps to know how many are out there seeking. I don't know, as a job seeker myself, that would make me feel a little bit better. Okay, it's not me. It's not me. It's just that there's a glut of people applying right now. I don't know. Personally, I would take a little bit of comfort in that. That would make me feel a little bit better. How do you incorporate AI at Stride? Woo, buddy, that was a big initiative with us last year, and it's going to continue to be one for us this year. Depends on the team, depends on the project. For our team in particular, we utilize AI for things like voiceovers. We also utilize AI for transcribing so that it makes it easier to make closed captions for videos. Grammarly is considered AI now, and so it looks over our documents and our emails and whatnot and make sure that it's all worded properly. There's an approval process that all AI tools go through at Stride, where you have to receive approval before you can use them. And so as we come across interesting ones, we tend to submit those and then wait with our fingers crossed to see if we can use those on the team. We've got some teams sort of across the hall that are using a tool called Synthesia, which is not just voiceovers, but sort of AI generated video of people that don't really exist, but they're narrating, which is amazing to me that we're that far in AI now that we can do that. So there's lots of different ways that we can use it. I'd say on a daily basis, we utilize it most for captioning videos and creating voiceovers for the SMEs that maybe don't feel comfortable doing the narration themselves.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like to talk versus
No, do it. I love it. I love it.
I was wondering, like, just kind of going back to that upskilling piece. We talked about certifications, talked about boot camps, things like that. But I was wondering on your team if there's any professional or what professional organizations that either you point your team towards or your team has come and said, we really feel that this professional organization is valuable or this network is valuable or any professional development opportunities that we could seek out in organizations that would support our transition.
Absolutely. There's two main ones that come to mind. The first one is ATD. They have a certification in talent development. They offer a couple more certifications. That's one organization that Stride tends to prefer because I think it's long established and pretty solid. The other route that my team in particular goes for professional development is they will find remote courses through universities, and they'll register for classes or certificates through them and take those. I've got one person on my team right now who's taking one through, it's a university in Florida. I'm not sure which one, but she's taking an animation course through them right now because she thought that that would be a really enriching way to sort of set off her course builds, is to be able to incorporate some cute little animations in there. So she's working her way through that. Those are the two most common avenues that my team in particular will use, something through ATD or something through a university.
Ed2Go, I think, is the resource that some of the people on that team use for those university courses. And Stride did have a professional development allowance, so they would pay for X amount for a year. So like that Adobe certified professional video designer was one of the things that several people on the team were looking at doing or had already done.
Excellent. Thank you, Jared.
Have that bookmarked to eventually get around to myself.
Same. I want to as well. All right.
We got time for probably one more question. Anybody
Yeah,
have
almost
something
at
on
the
their
top of
mind?
the hour. Who wants to ask the last defining question of the session?
I asked one in the chat, and I'll be quick. You may not be able to answer it, but what sort of, to the best of your knowledge, what sort of range are IDs being paid these days?
That is a good question. It depends. There is a wide range that I'm seeing out there right now. Quite a large one. Anywhere from, oh gosh, anywhere from the 50,000 range all the way up to the high 90s is what I'm seeing. That's such a wide variety of salaries, and it depends. I can't speak for all corporations or businesses, but a lot of times they will base it on whether you live in a high cost of living or low cost of living area in the United States. I know that goes into salary configuration. Yeah, so 50s to high 90s is what I'm seeing right now. Most right about the middle of that, but that's what I've seen lately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Well, thank you again, Heather, for joining us and sharing your insights and your experiences as a L&D manager and how to stand out in that process. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all so much for having me.